Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 534. Hear me 300, huh? 534. Welcome. I am your host, your co-host Nathan Springer, joined by the cute and lovable host. What's your name? Leo Louis Springer. Very good. Welcome. Once you're on the inside, wherever you're looking at this, make sure you hit that like button. 2 taps on the screen out there on TikTok really does the trick. That really is all it needs out there on TikTok. If you are looking at this live on YouTube, do hit that like button. Nathan Spring over there on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed. If you are not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Nathan, in all honesty, social media told us about CPEP to social media. Do not rely on social media for your knowledge. So says our Homeland Security Minister. And I find that strange, because where else would we find out anything? Because it's not like they're giving it to us. Hi. You wanna go read your book and go sleep? Go read your book and sleep. Tell the people good night.
Good night.
Tell them laters. I'm gonna read my book. Run along. Alright. Alexander needs to work on these leaks because they're giving us accurate information too. Listen, good night, Ting Ting. You know, I saw a post this week. And, you know, this is also symptomatic of the difference in generally what the genders yearn for in governance, where many women, many ladies yearn for that extra safety. Many men, they are more on the freedom train. I saw some ladies posting a link talking about a news article where China, listen to the country, China recently passed some kind of law or policy where they're banning social media influencers from speaking about issues unless they're qualified in it. So unless you're qualified in finances, you can't speak on financial issues. Unless you're qualified in education, you can't speak on education issues. Unless you're qualified in health, you can't speak on health issues. And these young ladies were celebrating this. Yes, this is the direction we need. Trinidad needs to take some notes from this. And I'm like, these crazy idiots. You must be a fool. Have you paid attention to no history before? You think it's a good idea that the government controls how all information is disseminated? You think that's a good idea? Were you dead during the last pandemic? Did you pay no attention to none of the news during 2019, 2020, 21, 22, that period of time? And if you paid attention to even a smidgen of the news, are you sure you want the government to tell you who could say what? Aretha Miriam says, really well, then half the parliament have to go because some of them have no qualifications. My problem is the idea that qualifications are the answer. And listen, if you're a black woman in the West, just bear in mind the real sell you all this propaganda. Western black women were sold that education and qualifications are the top mark. They're the one with the most college debt, generally speaking. They were sold that and convinced. It's not true. It's not true. And we're seeing more and more posts. There are more and more trends forming these days where people with high educational attainment are complaining that the world didn't just open itself before them and lay itself at their feet, and they're complaining about that, thinking that when they went to university and they just ticked a box, some random box of something they're going to study for 4 years, at the end of those 4 years the world owes them plenty money and a comfortable life till they die. Chaitra says, I hugging up my masters tighter than a man in the night, I buy it wholesale. Yes. And I don't know about your relationship status, and this isn't necessarily get at you, but the fact is, in some cases, they literally sold some of our young millennial women. They sold them education instead of a man. I remember my mother, lovely lady. You all need to speak to some of the matriarchs, some of the older ladies. They will set you all straight. My mother, bear in mind, all of her children, all of her daughters-in-law went to university, did degrees, all of that. Everybody did. But she always lamented that so many young women would give their prime years to education, and then when gravity starts to work and all of that, then you coming to give that to the man you say you love more than anything else. That don't really make sense, eh? I'm just saying, like, if I'm thinking about this practically, it makes sense that the person you say a real love get the best years. What sense it make giving UE or Custard or UTT or any university in the world all your best years? It's just, it's just a thought. It's just a thought. You could do it that as you may, but it's just a thought. But yeah, the idea of qualifications, I think that's the wrong idea. And someone like what our... Yes, it does, Aretha. Well, we can't afford plastic surgery now. See if we didn't have him. Hey, listen, you see this plastic surgery fad too? Race afraid of fighting for justice must embrace education to get some type of freedom. I don't think that the plastic surgery works. I just letting you all know it looks weird. Something looks off. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it looks worse in person. I have yet to see some 40-year-old woman do plastic surgery and convincingly look like a 20-year-old. They just look like a 40-year-old who did plastic surgery. My personal opinion. You could do as you want. You have free will. You could do whatever you want. But I just find your face start to look like, you all ever see somebody that got in a fight last night and you see them in the morning? Like a serious fight where cuff past the face and thing, and them kind of where your face swollen, but sometimes you can't tell where the swelling is too good. Something just look a little asymmetrical with the face, a little bumpy now, a little obzucky and oblong, not too symmetrical and relaxed and natural. It just, so I mean, you all do your plastic surgery if you want, but even the fake derriere, listen, if you have the thighs of a very slim woman and you go and pick up some fat from somewhere else and put it in the nether regions, you know what, let me go back to the news. Hey, so our Homelander, they lie, Arita, they lie. I don't know which man loved that. I never met the man. I think some of those things are, in terms of the saying men like it, I think it's signaling. So it's not that men like that, but when men see you with that, they get the understanding it's a signal to let men know, hey, this is a woman who wants plenty male attention. That's what it's a signal of. Not that men like that per se. It's like if a woman is walking the street with zero clothing, fully in the buff, you'll get lots of male attention. But I don't know if I'll say men like that, because I mean, you could walk nude and you'll get a lot of male attention, but I don't know if you'll get a man really and truly. If that's what you're looking for, if you just want the attention, that's really easy to come by. You really didn't need to go and spend money on obscure surgery to get that. Anyway, I detract myself. Homelander says, get your info. But, you know, really and truly, he didn't actually say where to get your information. The man just kind of, he bad talk us on the socials. Say don't get your information from social media. But he didn't really say where to get it. But Aretha, you say thank God you're a black woman. I'm speaking here as a Trini, as an honest Trini man. I have found of recent that shape, at least in the Trinidad context, doesn't really seem to be racially segregated as much as it once did. Shape all around. People understand how to go to the gym, how to do their squats, how to do their lunges, and shape could be gotten all around. You could maximize your shape, even if what nature gave you isn't the most wow. You can maximize. The gym does a lot, and people in Trinidad have been doing a lot of. That's all I'm saying on that. So yes, Alexander warns public, don't rely on social media for information. They too are asking you to join me on the front lines to fight for cams. Sir, you'll fight alone. Front line. No, sorry. Alexander warns public, don't rely on social media for information. Homelander is advising the public not to depend on social media for updates or guidance. Stop going to social media for guidance, he said after officially opening Daisy's exclusive newest branch in Tunapuna on November 2nd. Alexander said misinformation spread on social media last Friday caused confusion and panic. Where did the information come from? A whole bunch of rubbish, he said. We will not hide information from anyone. How could we? We have responsibilities. I'm the Minister of Homeland Security and Mr. Sturge is the Minister of Defense. It's our duty to report to the people. Chetra, listen. Donald Trump said he had bone spurs back in Vietnam. I am not 100% what those bone spurs are. But if they want to call everybody out, I think I might have some bone spurs too. I am not a coward. I have no problem fighting. I'm not fighting for people stupid talk. Rum shop talk. You cannot leave my beautiful two daughters at risk of orphanhood over rum shop talk. Your stupid talk can't orphan my babies. That's not happening. Nope. It can't work like that. As they say, tomorrow is another day. Hopefully, I pray that we can be here thousands of days into the future and you're still asking in vain. And I have more to make. Facts, Ronnie. Facts. Facts. Who said I am finished populating this earth? It seems like the genetic lottery is giving me some good results here. Why should I stop? And y'all want me to go and shoot men and risk death and live in a jungle and get mosquito bite. For what? For what? This basket is in great condition. It's not exactly. My basket is well weaved. Water passes through and through. Doesn't hold water. My basket, Word on ground is that they will start investigating people once you're critical of this government. I don't know. Well, they'll have a lot of investigation to do. Trinidad is not poised for easy dictatorial takeover. It is not poised. That's why I found it laughable when the opposition called Manning a dictator, and I found it even more laughable and proof of the gullibility of sycophants that they took the same mantra that they called Manning, using Rowley as defense against Manning, saying that Rowley is proof that Manning is a dictator. As soon as Manning left, they took that same name and called Rowley it too. Rowley's a dictator too. Like, oh, give me a chance now. Y'all will believe anything. But none of them could have been dictators. That's not how Trinidad is poised. They have a lot of work to do to take over Trinidad like that. Even the Jamaat al-Muslimin, Yassin may have been a brave man. He may have had inside information on things, who knows what. He wasn't going to succeed though. That's not how it works. Gather 300 men, run up in the capital and take over that's something that worked in like 200 AD. Venezuela was granny land. Raise your cutlass with me right at daybreak. A couple acres was promised to you, Nathan. Listen. We're not even in the days of conquest anymore, Mr. Sheiks. Like, maybe if we were in the days of conquest, and you tell me, well, Venezuela has a lot of rich land, and there's an opportunity, Nathan, for you to go there and carve out a piece as Nathanistan. You go and fight, you carve out a little piece of the Venezuelan countryside as Nathanistan, it's yours. Now we change the dynamics of the situation a bit. But that's not even the case we have here. You go lose your life for billionaire globalist businessmen to make a little more money. Really and truly. That's what it's about. That's really what it's about. Can't even afford punching. What's the price of punching now? I'm curious. I know they had a cheap punching to them. Those men who there are certain section, like there was the old rum shop in Trinidad. You all know that the Hawk and Spit rum shop. We know those. But over time, over like the last 15 years or so, a lot of Hawk and Spit rum shops, either they closed down or they upgraded into sports bars. They upgraded the Hawk and Spit into a sports bar. And they kick out the real old-time drunkard. Like the old-time drunkard in, you know, the dress shirt that he has for the last 30 years, so the dress shirt start to get a little thin. It start to get a little thin. And he wearing a kind of school pants looking long pants. And he beating the rum hard like it owe him money. That kind of drunkard, you don't really see much of them anymore. They got put out of the sports bar. They found a new place. The Chinese grocery. I don't know if you all seeing that in your parts, but some of the old-fashioned Hawk and Spit drunkards found a new home in the Chinese groceries. They sit down on a brick right outside, and when enough fellas come and they build up a little something, they go inside and get the village ram. They get the village ram and they're nice. Blessings from the island with no U.S. military presence. And the night. What them fellas going and do now? What price the village ram reading at? What price the village ram reading at? I feel I had to go out and talk to them fellas, and you know that might be a wonderful interview idea. See what them fellas think about the price raise, because that will hit them hard. That will hit them hard. But our Homeland Security Minister says, don't get your information from social media. And he didn't really say where to get your information from. He said basically, trust them, wait on them, and they will give it to you. Listen, that's real kind of daddy talk. I didn't like it when it came from Rowley. I don't like it when it's coming from you. You are not my daddy. I don't trust you like that. Trust me, I will tell you when I reach back. Don't worry, I will tell you. Why all the government sites are not showing certain data anymore, I don't know specifically what data you're talking about, but it's obvious that this present government wants to control the flow of information. It's obvious. They recently appointed a new TTT board also, so that will play well into that entire thing about controlling what is said where and who gives what. He said there are leaders in the community that you can trust who will give you information. Stoops is right. You know, I remember a funny post on Twitter, X, when the United States did their bombing over Iran. And there was a picture of the flight logs during the time when the bombing occurred. And as soon as the information went out, the entire skies over Iran was empty. You know, you could look at those live flight maps and see where all the planes are. All the skies over Iran was empty, except one plane. There was just one random commercial plane flying over the middle of Iran. And the caption on that post, on that picture, was sometimes you just need to unplug and touch grass. And the point that the post was making is sometimes that unplug and touch grass, and you know, you're not paying attention because it's so toxic, all this information out here. The information overwhelms you and just makes you negative, and there is some truth to that. But information is power also. And if what Homelander is trying to tell us is that what we all supposed to do is live like we're in a dolly house, waiting on them to tell us when to jump and how high, that sounds like foolishness. That sounds idiotic. How am I, as a father, a husband, I say I'm the head of this house, there's a possible war bring 7 miles off our coast, and you're telling me, wait for politicians to tell me what to do? Don't listen to what you hear in social media. Wait for politicians to tell you what to do. If there was a strike, some kind of slow-moving missile that was launched at Trinidad, it will hit here in 2 days. And there were ships leaving Trinidad with room for 600 people. Do you think those ministers, those politicians, would let the entire country know at the same time and allow it to be first come, first serve? Or do you think they and their family will jump onto those ships, leave, and you'll get a notification when they're safe in another land? Like, you really think they would warn you before they get away themselves? That's what you're telling me, Homelander? You all remember hearing, because Homelander came out of the police service, eh? Remember, that man was a police. You all remember the police stations began closing and locking their doors, turning off the lights after a certain hour? And the reason they said was for their safety. You all remember that, right? Because I find, like, you know, sometimes because I read the news, I feel like I alone remember some of these things. Anybody else remembers hearing that story where the police stations close their door, lock up the doors, turn off the lights after a certain time because they say it's dangerous, it's for their safety. All police stations when they were first built had a nice glass front. Now plenty of them build a concrete embankment to block off the glass front. Police who are supposed to protect are afraid of the bandits. They say it's too dangerous for them to just have the lights on and their doors unlocked. And we're supposed to believe that the man that come out from them is going to give us safety information us first. Here's proof of that lie. What happened last Friday? Like, okay, I am willing to believe that some people exaggerated it, some people stretched the story, some people tried to make extra out of the story. Okay, you could convince me of that, fine. So what did happen though? What actually happened? Because while this man is saying that we're not supposed to listen to what we see on social media and that they will let us know, they wouldn't leave us in the dark, we don't know what happened last Friday. There are some sources, senior military sources, that are saying allegedly it was because of the reports of Trump making a land strike in Venezuela, and that's what they were reacting to. But no one has put their name to that statement. No one has put their name to that statement. So what happened last Friday? If you all are going to tell us this, someone on record tell us what exactly happened, because we haven't learned yet. All of them have diplomatic passport, they will be leaving facts. But we see this all over the world. When those dictators, now Gaddafi was a bit different, hard luck Gaddafi, but many of those dictators, when justice comes for them, when the walls are closing in, some plane from some foreign nation comes and fly them out, and they'll, you know, plenty of those names you hear about atrocities of Pol Pot and this one and Idi Amin and this one in Africa and that. Many of those men lived to 100 and to 90 something in luxury in some country in exile, you know. Those men lived out their life in luxury in exile. That's how it works at that level. And very likely, whoever was their right-hand man driving around in luxury vehicles with them, very likely that man was given up as a scapegoat for them to escape. That's the way it goes. Can we also realize that Camps is not in the loop with the US government? I've said this many times. And this is why I said I don't think it's even in Venezuela's interest to attack Trinidad. There's no strategic benefit to attacking Trinidad, because it's not like Trinidad is part of whatever the military action is against Venezuela. I think Trinidad is an unnecessary part in the physical part of this. Trinidad's part is in the propaganda side, is on the media making side. That's the part, that's the role that we are playing. I don't think there's a military role for us to play. What they need to do is think then talk. I agree. But yeah, as I said, I don't see it as, and you know, what made me chuckle uncomfortably Friday is Thursday I now done quarreling. Last week, Thursday, I was now finished quarreling with people in Venezuela not going and attack Trinidad. That don't make any sense. Why would anybody do that? And what would I do, wake up Friday morning and hear military in high alert? But they're looking to prove me wrong so quick. Still not proven wrong yet. But as I said, we don't know. And if the case is, as our military heads said, we are, when I mean we, our top level military, is looking at international news just like everybody else and attempting to react militarily to news that they read out there. That's a very unfortunate position. I don't think they will attack Trinidad unless Trinidad play fooling and facilitate. Yeah, I think that too. I think that too, and I don't think, like, it wouldn't be in the US. As I said, it's clear that there's propaganda there, there's narrative building going on there. I don't think it would work in the US's benefit to launch normal attacks, regular attacks from Trinidad and bring Trinidad under attack in reprisal. That wouldn't work even for the US's benefit, so I just don't see that as happening. Now, the problem is, when people fighting 7 miles off your coast, the chances of fallout happening there is high, in all kind of different form. As we spoke about last week, as simple as the natives of Venezuela, the Warao people, they are starting to flood our coastline. What happens if, like, wartime refugees aren't the same as economic difficulty refugees? Nathan, don't say our military watching CNN, don't do them that. Well, sword, it kind of seems so, because the reports are that all of that last week Friday came out of the report that the US was going to do land strikes. And that report came out from, who was it, Wall Street Journal or someone of them made that report. And it was a report based on some surmising that they did. Eventually, the question was asked to Trump on Air Force One as he was returning from Asia, and he flat out said no. So it's obvious that the report wasn't even corroborated. And the fact that there was no land attack says the report was wrong. So what is the point of SOFA then? The point of SOFA is so that when the US military wants to do what they want in our waters, they can't be legally questioned. That's the point of SOFA. Because it's clear they wouldn't update us on that. Of course they wouldn't update us on that. That would go against their chain of command. They have no interest in that. And we aren't even a participatory nation like that. Maybe if we had that blue and white Star of David flag, then we may have been informed about more, but we aren't in that at that level. What's with the eyes, sword? What's with the eyes? And a day ago, our Minister of Defense said, now the head of our National Security Council is going to be briefed. Sturge, PM to be briefed on Defense Force orders. I mean, I'm not sure about how our chain of command goes. Who is our head of the military? Is it our president? Is our president the top of command of our military? Is that the way it's supposed to work? Because I am trying to figure out here. But technically, this is the second time we've seen something like this happen. PNM did one like this already too. Where when they went to Barbados and picked up the arms dealer, allegedly kidnapping him, none of the senior political directorate knew anything about it. They were all in the dark. So apparently, our security services could leave this country, make arrangements with a foreign nation, enter that foreign nation, pick up a Trinidadian, bring them back by force to Trinidad without any knowledge of the leaders of the country. That's one. And two, now added to that, apparently our security services could go to the highest level of alert without informing the leader of the country. That feels nearly like, you know, some of those African nations where there's a political head and a military head, and, you know, there's a balancing act between the two, because if the political head overdo it, the military always ready to jump in with a coup and stuff. You know, some of those African nations run kind of like that, like the military is its own independent body. Apparently that's how Trinidad runs. That's news to me. Nathan, the president, must know how that... Bro, I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how that's possible. I wonder if Sturge was briefed. Defense Minister Wayne Sturge says Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar will be briefed about decisions to recall TT Defense Force personnel to base and a subsequent order to then stand them down. He made this comment on November 2nd in response to an order issued on October 31st for active military personnel to be recalled to base, all military installations being locked down, and then an order being issued for personnel to stand down. These decisions fueled speculation that U.S. military strikes against targets in Venezuela were imminent. When asked about the order to recall military personnel to base, Prime Minister said she was not aware about this order but would find out. In a WhatsApp comment, Sturge said, the Honorable Prime Minister will be briefed on an actual Stage 1 deployment or other significant operations and not every single exercise aimed at preparedness. Again, he seems to be attempting to insinuate that this was just an exercise aimed at preparedness. And again, the point I made when Homelander said it. When Homelander said it, like, you're still not telling us what it was. The easiest way to put all of this to bed, to rest all of the worry, is to actually tell us what it was. And telling us it was a drill, I mean, at least you're offering a reason. But no one's going to believe that. Once you understand that, no one is going to believe that. Let's look at possible fallouts beside military of this ongoing conflict. Call to embrace migrant children, end xenophobia. President of the Rapid Fire Kids Foundation, Kevin Rattiram, has called for xenophobia to be dispelled and for migrants to be embraced in his address during RKF's annual dinner at Achievers Banquet Hall in San Fernando on Saturday. Rattiram also called for assistance with transportation for children of the Laramie Migrant Support Group to attend the Learning Center. Rattiram told the audience that to accommodate renovations, a new location was found for the center. While a donation was made and work was being done by the Venezuelans at the new place, residents raised objections. Neighbors started saying, we don't want no Spanish here. And it hurt me to know that people, because of the nationality of someone else, could even bear ill will in their heart toward children who have never committed any wrong, who are here through no fault of their own, whether legal or illegal, he said. I think people pretend to be foolishly ignorant about issues of migration. People pretend to be foolish about issues of migration. Listen, there was once a plan in Trinidad to distribute some residents from East Port-au-Spain in some HDC settlements in various parts of Trinidad. And many people in various parts of Trinidad protested people from Trinidad moving into their communities. No community really likes the idea of a group of foreigners just plopping into their community. And what annoys me many times about things like this is this Ratiram guy who's a lawyer, don't doubt he lives in an exclusive community where if a Venezuelan is in that community, they came across in the rulership class, in the owner class, because you know Bermudez was founded by Venezuelans. There are very wealthy Venezuelans in Trinidad and Tobago also. So he may be living in an area where if there are any Venezuelans, they are upper class and you don't even know. And I think a lot of the talk about xenophobia and the caring of migrants is actually a begrudging of the needy of your own country. How could you really ask me for donations and help to boost Venezuelans if there are Trinidadians who need it? Does that make sense? And I understand it could sound callous. I understand that. I understand you're saying it could sound callous. But we're thinking realistically here. Does it make sense we go looking for Venezuelans in need while there are Trinidadians in need? And am I a bigot, a hateful person, if I think that Trinidad should see to the needs of Trinidadians primarily? Chetra, just so you know, that was something made public a while ago. The Businessmen Wives Association in South complained about this a long time ago. And listen, you could consider it a joke, but that's a real problem. If you move a group of young, attractive, and willing to be promiscuous women, I'm not saying this is all Venezuelan women. I'm making an analogy here. If you move a group, 20 young, promiscuous women move into a community could cause real trouble. Real trouble. Real trouble. That's something that could be very dangerous, because they are just realities that we live with as human beings. I don't like many of these phobias that they name as phobias. I don't like them because they aren't phobias. And the attempt to name these things phobias is an attempt to belittle people's concerns without addressing their concerns. Well, yes. There are realities to do with preferences that make the Venezuelan influx particularly concerning for certain groups. Preferences in colorism, preferences in long straight hair, that kind of thing. And you know, there is a side where if you look at it in the male-female dynamics kind of way, and some of these men may have been struggling on the local dating market. Locals were bypassing them. And now Well, the market change. C'est la vie. C'est la vie. Hey, sword, sword, sword. Look what they're doing now, boy. Hear the story, sword. Hear this. All you had to find these men and deal with them, eh? 5 bandits in hijabs rob central business. Police are investigating a daring robbery in which 5 men disguised in black hijabs stormed a California mini-mart yesterday morning and escaped with thousands of dollars in cash. Around 11:06 a.m., midday, them fellas out there doing robbery, midday hot sun, them fellas in hijab, black hijab, putting down robbery. The group entered Quasi Discount Minimart along the southern main road. 2 were armed with guns, 1 had a cutlass and 1 carried a hammer. Anytime when people go missing, it does have reasons. Like, me blame you. Listen, you rob people, you desecrate people's religious symbol, and you use the people's religious symbol in criminal folly. I find them should get dealt with. I find they should get dealt with. People must know who that is. Nah, you can't be doing that, man. You can't be doing. And you see, things like this cause problems. So now, the store has to be concerned any sister walking with a hijab. In the middle of a SOE, it's working. How? Sir, that's kind of the problem for me with this SOE. The SOE seems like the only thing is for convenience for the police and maybe the ruling class. As in, they aren't really, at least what it seems like, it doesn't seem like they're using the SOE to really break into the criminal associations in Trinidad and break them down. And I mean, with the US out on our coast struggling the drug trade, because if you know anybody that talks about such things, you would know that the blocks dry these days. Now might be the ideal time. The US out there strangling the drug trade, so some of these fellas might be a little more desperate and make foolish mistakes. Now might be the ideal time for police to try and crack down on our illegal trade situation that we're having now. And it doesn't seem to me like we're seeing much of that occurring. It nearly seems to me like most of what we're seeing is just the police don't need a warrant now. And that's scary if all you're really using this for is for warrant. Yeah, I know it's not the first time you saw it. People think the ruling class changes based on who wins an election. No, it doesn't. I always remember, I had a friend working for a certain large contractor, and he told me election time they were folding white, yellow, and red jerseys. Back in the time when the white was separate. White, yellow, red jerseys all folding and going into bags. That ain't happening when the police hand it. Well, that's what I always say. That's what I always say in Trinidad and Tobago. And that's why Trinidad's crime situation is what Trinidad's crime situation is. That's why it is what it is. Plain and simple. We have corruption at the top. So the crime cannot be solved because the crime pays for people who are corrupt at the top. And the people who are corrupt at the top would not want it to stop. That's why it cannot stop. The long and the short of it. There are brothels next door to police stations. There are main drug blocks right next to police stations. As in, every time a police comes into the station, parks his vehicle and jumps out, he could look so and see the fellas selling drugs right there. There are places like that in Trinidad. The amount of corrupt things people have to say about Homelander. The stories are long and detailed. I've heard some of them. I've heard quite a few of them. And many of them are very believable too. Chaitra says legalize prostitution. I am against that. I am anti the legalization of prostitution. I don't think those things help society. I think they derail society, they put society down lower, and we get a worse society eventually out of it. And I think there is no non-oppressive prostitution. I think all prostitution is a power imbalance and abuse. All prostitution is abuse. It's a power imbalance. This woman would not have given herself to you. This woman would not have given herself to you. She is struggling for money for whatever reason she wants the money, and that's the only reason she gives herself to you. Prostitution picks up the assumption that human sexuality is simply a commodity that could be traded. Like human sexuality is just like putting up bricks, you know? So if someone hires me to do some construction and I do the construction and they don't pay me, then all they did is steal from me. So then in that case, the logic behind legalizing prostitution is that grape is just common theft. Well then, Chaitra, grape is just theft. It's just theft. If you want to treat grape as something different and big and significant and some kind of issue that has its own special category, well then you're saying human sexuality is not something that could just be simply traded. You can't have it both ways. So either you want to delete grape from our law books and just have it as common theft. If someone steals that bit of your services from you, it's just theft. It's like you do Mehndi and someone comes in, you drop Mehndi on their hand and they walk out without paying you. They stole your labor. I mean, it's not a good thing, but whatever. We can delete, we can do whatever we need to protect women. What kind of foolishness we reaching here? What kind of foolishness? We're not doing whatever it takes. 1 year Sharia criminal code, just 1 year. And Trinidad fix. Well, the bad people might be dead, so that might fix Trinidad. I mean, that's basically the idea El Salvador had too. We take the bad people, we lock them away, and we live happily ever after. The end. And a lot of what Sharia criminal code is that the obviously bad people, we deal with them very seriously. We don't TTV and play around all this. Because you cannot explain away or debate away female autonomy. I am not explaining away or debating away female autonomy. What does that even mean? Everyone has autonomy, but autonomy doesn't mean you could do whatever you want with your body. It still doesn't mean that. It still doesn't mean that. There are still rules about what I can do with my body and what I can use my body to do. There would always be rules about that, societal rules. And okay, you could want to live in a society where there are zero rules about anything. I'm saying I don't want that society. You could want that, but I don't want it. And I don't think it would lead to better things. And I don't think it would lead to better things. I think this kind of thinking has led to a deleterious world. I think this kind of thinking is why there are so many single mothers. I think this kind of thinking is what you'd find in the ghetto. I think this kind of thinking is what rich, wealthy women learn in university and talk about but never live it. Rich, wealthy women and their daughters don't live this kind of thinking. They push it and let the poor people live this kind of foolish animalistic thinking where, girl, do what you want with your body, you know, but they don't let their daughters do it. Their daughters don't live that life. Their daughters don't live that female autonomy. Those are empty statements. It's a cliched statement. There isn't an actual meaning to that. When you say female autonomy, you mean nothing. You're just literally saying a narrative. You're just saying narrative words. There's no meaning to that word. Female autonomy. What does that even mean? There isn't a meaning to what you're saying there. You're saying women should be able to do what they want, but yet society should be able to protect them. Those two things don't go together. If you want the protection of society, then you have to live within the remit of society. You can't have both. If you want to do what you want, you're being disingenuous. How am I being disingenuous? That is the societal deal. That is the societal deal. If I want protection from the police, I must live within the code of laws that the police are enforcing. And then I put myself within the protection of the police, or at least I'm supposed to. Family. If I want the protection of my family, I have to obey the rules of my family. You see, these things were much more common in some older societies where, okay, you don't want to follow our societal rules, you don't have to follow it. Go to exile and live amongst your own rules. Females can have the ability to do whatever they want with their bodies, and they should also be able to go to the police. They can do that right now, obviously, but at the same time, we as a society can dictate that if somebody is doing something that is deleterious to our society in general and puts themselves in extreme harm, that we shouldn't allow them to do it, just as we do with drugs. Just as we do with drugs. Male autonomy is that I should have the autonomy to be able to take fentanyl, boil it in a tube, and inject it in my vein at the maximum dosage. If I want. That's male autonomy. They don't allow you to do that in this country. It's illegal. It's against the law. They wouldn't allow me to do it if they know what I'm going to do. Is that now oppressive? How dare Trinidad and Tobago not let me inject Fenty into my veins? How dare they? Prostitution isn't extreme harm. Chaitra, I urge of you, go do some research on what you're saying. Go read some books written by former prostitutes. Go listen to what they say about the life of prostitution. There is no sanitized version of this. There is none. As I said, it is literally abusive because it takes human sexuality and commodifies it, and then complains that sexuality is being objectified. You are literally commodifying and objectifying the thing. So obviously it would then be commodified. That's one. And two, however, these laws will be able to protect the most disadvantaged. No, they don't generally. What they do is they increase the usage. So, for example, the ganja laws, they decriminalize the herb. Has there been more or less herbal use throughout Trinidad? I would say, without a doubt, a lot more. That's what happens. A lot more. Not even just more. A lot more. I don't know why rights. What is a right? Again, another one of those empty terms. What is a right? What you say is a right is a right. What makes something a right? A right is what society decides they would defend you in. It's up to society to decide that. You don't decide your rights. Society decides your rights. So what right are you talking about? Why rights are such an issue? It's like the people who say free healthcare is a right. What are you talking about? Free healthcare is someone else's labor. What do you mean there's a right to that? You have a right to go out and prostitute your body? What do you mean by that? What do you mean you have a right? You mean you are able to? Yes, you are able to go and do it. So what do you mean by a right? That you have the ability to do it? Well, yes, you have the ability. That's not a right. It's up to society to say me blacks are no. Sorry, but me being black isn't being a prostitute. Me being black is not being a prostitute. Sorry, it's not what I'm saying. I was born with, you see this melanin? I was born with this. I didn't choose to go and sell my body. Like you're comparing black people with prostitutes for rights. You're really off the deep end there. And I fully agree with you, Little Miss Mediator. That's the point I was making earlier on. There is no, and I'm looking forward, the word keeps eluding me. Like when they say this was made with fair trade, no abuse happened in it, there's a word for that. And there's no form of that for prostitution. Because the very idea of it is I'm paying you to give up your sexuality when you would not have done it by free. Ethical. Thank you, Little Miss Mediator. Ethical. There is no ethical prostitution. Chaitra and she was born, so Chaitra, a 2-year-old, should be able to do what they want. Like, you understand the foolishness you're talking there. If I'm born with it, I should be able to do it as I want? What? I should be able to do with it what I want because I'm born with it? What foolishness you're talking? We have rules about that still. Because a 5-year-old is born with it, but they can't do what they want with it. What stupidness you're talking? That's nonsense. There would always be limitations on such things. And exactly, Little Miss Mediator, there's no ethical way to do this. There's no ethical way to do this. It is unethical by definition. I am selling you my body out of desperation for resources. And what you're telling me is make this legal and now it's going to be good. Actually, Chaitra, you seem like what you're arguing for isn't like slavery freeing the choice and freeing it up. What you're actually arguing for is to re-legalize slavery. You're trying to say that if a woman is willing to sell herself into sexual slavery, then we should legalize that. Freedom! But by very definition, it's not freedom. By very definition. No, Chaitra, the argument makes sense. The argument makes sense because you said they are born with it so they can do with it as they please. But they are born with it from the age of 0. From the age of 0. Right? So then the 2-year-old, the 5-year-old is born with it. Should they be able to do with it as they please, Chaitra? Should they be able to do with it as they please? But why are we talking about adults? If you are born with it and all it is just a commodity, you could give it away to who you want. Like, I could give somebody a bounce at the age of 10 and so what? If somebody wants to pay me to give them a bounce at the age of 10, so what? It's just a commodity. It's just, something you do with your body. You're free to do it. Why have an age limit on it if it's just commodity? There's nothing special or different about this. We could buy it, sell it, trade it as we want. I know, Flavini, I know. And people like Chaitra run fully into it in ignorance, not seeing that the logic they are pushing doesn't end there. It opens up the avenue to many other things. Children cannot sell, they can't get into contracts. You don't need a contract to sell Chaitra. What are we talking about? So if I have a parlor, my 10-year-old can't sell in my parlor? What are we talking about? Like Chaitra, let's be logical. A child cannot sell in a parlor. Okay, Chaitra. I think we reach where we're going there. Children are not allowed to sell. Okay, Chaitra, go in the village parlor. When the people daughter sell you a coke, call the police and tell them, look, a 12-year-old sell me a coke in a shop here. When children walk around the village selling sweets to raise funds, they're breaking the law, you know? They're breaking the law. Children can't sell anything. Like, Chaitra, you have to be an ignoramus to believe this. You do not believe this. I know you don't believe this. The laws of Trinidad do not forbid a child from selling anything. There are child labor laws about how many hours a child could work, about what level of professional labor a child can get into. The thing you spoke about before, about what kind of contract a child could get into. But a child isn't barred from selling Chaitra. That is ridiculous on its face. It's not illegal for a child to whip up a stall and sell pomerac from the tree they pick in the backyard. No, children aren't banned from selling. So if it is just a commodity, then why stop children from selling it? You see, Chaitra, what I recognize by the extent of folly you're willing to go through is that it's not even a reasoned position. So it makes me ask myself, why does a grown woman want to legalize prostitution so badly she's willing to be illogical about it? And what I've recognized over time is most times people hold on to a position beyond the point of logic is when there's an attachment to it. Because usually the point of logic should be able to, trigger something in you. Chaitra, I hope you all are following this conversation. Chaitra said children cannot sell in Trinidad, and then was proven wrong on that and went straight into our next statement. Well, I don't know, Little Miss Mediator, I'm wondering if Chaitra is a woman, if Chaitra is a oh my goodness, well then, Chaitra, they have to watch your hard drive. Somebody find Chaitra hard drive and search it, please. Find Chaitra hard drive. Find Chaitra hard drive and search it. And be very, very, very careful the people you see around him. Very careful. Whew. Arguing that women should be able to sell me their body. By rights, I should have a right to pay for a woman's body. What answer I didn't answer? You know what that's like? That's like one of those, you could picture one of those fat colonialists on their estate. And when people speaking about slavery becoming illegal, how dare they? How dare they? I have a right to buy that body. If that African, if that Negro wants to sell his body to me, I have a right to buy that body. And I bought that body by law. I bought that body over from Africa, and I have a right. I'm trying out, found what is your exact argument against prostitution. I've said it numerous times. My argument is that there is no ethical prostitution. One, I put human sexuality in an individual category by itself. As in, I don't think it can be commodified. That is why grape is its own special thing, where if I am convinced of the death penalty, if I was someone that believes in the death penalty, I think proven grape should have the death penalty. Because I believe human sexuality is in a special category by itself. It is something unique. That's why we treat it unique. That's why children aren't allowed to play around with it. Many things aren't ethical, but you have no problem with partaking in it by law. What? Cheat. Do you believe in the death penalty? No. Now, my view can change. But as of now, no. But yeah, I think it's in a special category by itself. That's why legally we treat it as a special category. It's like children are a special category, so we treat them as a special category. Human sexuality is not the same as human regular labor. It is not the same as just anything you do with your body. We treat it specially different. That's one. So there is no ethical way you could treat with that. You cannot commodify it. That's the reason women are offended by being objectified, because it is not something to be commodified. That's one. First part. It's something unique. We can't commodify it. Two, it cannot be ethical, because by very nature you are putting someone in a lower powered relationship against someone in a higher powered relationship where they are being paid to give of their body. It's basically sexual slavery. You're telling someone we should legalize you being able to sell yourself into sexual slavery. And listen, we made it illegal. Even if you are desperate right now, you cannot sell yourself into slavery. You cannot. You cannot sell yourself for someone else to do with you as you want. Chaitra, nothing is going to convince you, because you are a man. Like, if you were a woman, I may have guessed that you were in some unfortunate circumstances and that's why you fell to this side. But you are a man and you are illogical about this. I assume your hard drive is full and the Venice don't stand a chance when you are in the midst, and you lead with the money to get them too. That's what I assume. When you told me you're a man, I lost the idea of convincing you. You won't be convinced. You won't be convinced. You want access to women's bodies by being able to pay for it. That's what you want. It doesn't matter what the logic is, hither nor thither. You want that. Yes, of course, you're an advocate for women's rights. Listen, that's why I regularly tell women the scariest men out there are the male feminists. Because this man is out here saying he's a campaigner for women's rights. But what he really wants is that if you are desperate, he must be able to come and offer you money and take your body. That's what he wants. He wants the avenue of sexual slavery to be open for him. And he puts himself out there as I'm a fighter for women's rights. And I bet he would be a fighter for the shmush motion too. Because after he pay you to get your body, if there's any result, he wants you to be able to get rid of the result too. But don't worry, it's all for your body rights, you know. He wants it for your rights. Because you know he cares about your rights so much. I want to be able to pay you to treat you how I want. And when the result of that happens, get rid of it. But it's just because I love you so much. I want your rights. I want your rights. I'm very privileged. If you consider thinking prostitution is unethical in all situations to be a privilege, then I welcome that privilege. And I pray that my 2 daughters have that same privilege. And I pray that my 2 daughters never meet men like you. You know, like maybe before I had 2 daughters, men like you just made me laugh only. But now, men like you make me concerned. They make me, you raise that kind of willingness for violence inside of me real quick. A man going down to the bone illogically, vex arguing about I should have the right to pay for your body. You don't go into prostitution because you have better options. Everyone in the chat, read what this man just typed. He said, you don't go into prostitution because you have better options. So he's saying he's willing to admit that prostitution only comes about through desperation. He's admitting that. And he is saying what he wants is that in desperation, women must be able to sell him their bodies. Listen, I am against many of the social safety nets. I am against many of the social safety nets because I think they're wasteful. But I would listen to an argument about giving a woman money to survive from the government before I listen to an argument about legalizing prostitution for her. A woman is in a tough situation, and your legal solution goes towards allowing her to sell her body to you instead of helping her out. What? I know you are only here because you're desperate. And I want you to be able to have to sell it to me. Scary thought. Very, very scary thought. Very scary thought. And that's why when you hear people campaigning for things, you have to dig a bit deeper. Eh? Yes, they may say it's about rights. Yes, they may say it's about justice. They may say it's about freedom. But dig a bit deeper. Dig a bit deeper. It's the same thing that has the maps out there. Anybody know who the crew of MAPs are? Maps? And they make a lot of the arguments that Chaitra attempts to make here. Arguing for their own cause. It's about rights and freedom. I didn't mischaracterize the argument, Chaitra. I went to the base of the argument. You would like for me to stay on a frivolous level and just talk about things at the level you would like to talk, but I'm going at the base of that. Because if you say that you don't go into prostitution because you have better things to do, what's the base of that? It's a desperate person. You're yet to see what the straw man was. Alright, people, that's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I hope you never even dream or think about going into a life of prostitution. Part of the reason I think Chaitra could be a man for real though is because he always spoke about prostitution being legalized as if it would only be legalized for women. Aren't you interested in the male prostitutes? If you're a woman? Sure. Alright, people, laters, hold it down, stay good, stay well, stay inside, outside, sketchy. Be mindful, not mindless. Laters, people, it is further objectifying women. It is by definition making women and their sexuality into an object that can be bought, sold, and traded. I'm out, people. Don't do that. Treat women with respect. They aren't objects.